Introducing Unlock My Coach, the soulful marketing agency for coaches. Let's unlock your next level together. Let's connect.
We are love-seeking missiles. We are. We're looking for somebody to love us. We're looking for that connection. The life is always going to hand you problems. Just recognize that what they're going through is normal. And love is not enough. And by building a business, it takes 5 years, a new child, a baby, all the problems, staying up late at night, colicky, all that stuff, but you don't give up. I want my couples to come to that awareness. And by giving them this information, they do it on their own because they're smart. They're smart people. And then I started thinking about we're wired to judge, blame, and criticize. And this is one of the things that blows up the marriage. Blows it up. Have a way to talk about it without infuriating partner and turning it into a fight. I would ask, did you ever want to get divorced? So it's really nice to know that the person you're married to won't bail on you. You don't know the person you're divorcing. You're divorcing your interpretation of them. So keep in mind, two people come together. There's his model of the world, how he was raised, views the world, sees things, and the interpretation he gives. And then there's her model of the world, doing the same thing. They don't know how to blend these two models of the world together because of the need to be right and also the need to look good. They didn't grow up together, didn't know how to make it work. Was on the verge of just wasn't fighting for marriage. Honey, it's not over. Divorce was never an option. Realize what was the underlying reason. And as long as both parties are looking at taking full responsibility, they will make their way back to each other. That's the key.
Welcome to Unlock My Coach, a podcast for seasoned, soulful, and successful coaches. In every episode, you'll hear incredible stories from coaches who are building their brands and making their mark in the booming $20 billion coaching industry. Who am I? Stacey Gonzalez, your host and founder of Unlock, a digital marketing and personal branding agency that helps coaches launch, market, and grow their businesses. Ready to unlock your coach? I know I've got your key in here somewhere. Welcome to today's podcast, where we're excited to introduce to you Kimberly Brenner. I know you're going to be really excited about this one. Kimberly's a seasoned marriage mindset coach dedicated to helping couples navigate challenges and building lasting connections. Now, Kimberly brings a powerful blend of therapeutic insight. She is a trained, certified therapist, as well as coaching expertise and real-world strategies to her work. She's also an amazing entrepreneur and businesswoman. She guides couples towards deeper understanding and better relationships by focusing on 3 core pillars: conflict resolution, trust rebuilding, and effective communication, which, as we know, are essential elements in the places where we might trip up to have thriving partnerships. Her mission is to help coaches shift from frustration to fulfillment, create partnerships rooted in connection and respect. So if you're looking for a simple way to start making a change today in your relationship, Kimberly offers year-long memberships for newlywed couples, and she can be found in my own city at chicagomarriagecoach.com. So Kimberly, we are so thrilled to have you. Welcome to our show.
Oh, thanks, Stacey. I'm happy to be here too. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
I got to say this. When I tell people I'm a marriage counselor, you know what I hear almost all the time? Where were you? Where were you when? And it's like, well, I was always here. Where were you? And it takes about 6 to 7 years before a couple will go for any kind of help when they're struggling. And I have to come up with a way to reach them sooner. So that's what I'm about, really helping people learn how to be married.
Which isn't an easy thing.
No.
And we're going to jump into that. But I want to start in a little fun spot, how we connected, and then the unique differentiator you and I have around our connection. So we met on LinkedIn and social media, and I was immediately like drawn to you. You have a great presence, a great brand. You're doing a lot of really interesting work. And so when we jumped on the call, it felt supernatural, right? You can tell when people are really good at what they do, and you certainly have that level of coaching, consulting, counseling acumen. But what was really interesting, I thought, well, she feels like the right person to share that. Like, I got married in 98, I got officially divorced in 2015, and then remarried to the same person in 2021. And that's when I sometimes share that with people, they say, wow, that's something. I kind of know an aunt, or I heard of somebody doing it, but people typically don't experience that. And you are belong to that same club that I do, where we remarried the person that we divorced.
Yeah.
So why don't we start a little bit about your story and then walk us through what success and how you define success as a marriage mindset coach.
Okay. Yeah, it was so funny when you shared your story. I go, me too. It was part of the Me Too movement. I had posted years ago, would you ever marry your ex? And I got resounding no, 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 no. So what you and I did really took a lot of reflection. I had to reflect. I was married for 18 years, and after 18 years, we were roommates. I did not know what was happening. I just accused him of the marriage not working. I did not take any responsibility. And today I call that being a girl. I was definitely a girl in the first 18 years of my marriage. It was what I wanted, the way I wanted it, and blaming him for it not working and not really taking a look at what I was doing. So when I kind of wore him down to the point of he was exhausted because he did not know how to make me happy. He felt that none of what he could do would make me happy. And he wasn't enough. So he was a shell of a man. And I didn't realize I did that by how I talked to him, how I treated him, how I would disrespect him. So, anyway, he agreed to the divorce. It was a very amicable divorce. And we stayed in each other's lives. He was always in and out of my life, but we were divorced for almost 7 years, 6 years, 7 years, somewhere around that. And the story goes like this. Why I decided to call him up, but I was on a plane next to a man who was telling me his wife had died that year and he was off to go visit his son. And I said, well, how long were you married, sir? He said, 55 years. And my response was, wow, that's a long time to be married. And then I asked him, did you ever want to get divorced? He said, honey, divorce was never an option, but I hated her guts and I wanted her dead. And I lived in the garage for
God.
weeks at a time. But because divorce wasn't an option, we had to figure it out. And then he went on to say, this happened 5 times. And
Mm.
I'm thinking to myself, well, my clients, if it happens once, okay, fine. If it happens twice, they're calling it a pattern and they're out the door calling for a divorce lawyer. This guy went through it 5 times. And that really shocked me. And then he went on to say, it's so, the life is always going to hand you problems. So it's really nice to know that the person you're married to won't bail on you. And it hit me. It hit me, Stacy. I was on the verge of just sobbing because I realized at that point I gave up. I wasn't fighting for my marriage. I didn't. I didn't know how to make it work. And here's this guy saying that life's going to hand you problems. It's nice to know the person you're with wouldn't bail. And I bailed. And that realization had me call my ex-husband late at night. I think it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and telling him it's not over. And his response was, you're right, it's not.
Wow.
And I did that, not rehearsing, not thinking what he was going to say, not hoping for any resolve, nothing. I just said it's not over, and I meant it. It wasn't over. We weren't finished. And when he said, it's not, you're right, I'm like, okay. And then he goes, what do you want to do? I said, I'll be there in 2 weeks. Because I was living in another state. And that's what I did.
And it was through a story of somebody else that you found yourself next to on a plane that opened your eyes and allowed you to re-examine and reflect accurately and see things in a way. You said, I was a girl. I was immature in ways. I was projecting my past patterns onto him. And he sounds like the one I know, right? Very long suffering, very easygoing, not necessarily going to, but it's death by 1,000 cuts, right? And so, knowing what you know and what you've experienced and what you've witnessed with your clients, talk to me a little bit about the couples who make tremendous progress, become more resilient. What are some of the things you notice through your work with them that are kind of those awareness points?
When couples come to me to talk about should we stay together, we're thinking about breaking up, we're arguing, fighting, what have you, I always say the same thing. You don't know the person you're divorcing. You're divorcing your interpretation of them. So keep in mind, two people come together. There's his model of the world, how he was raised, how he views the world, how he sees things, and the interpretation he gives. And then there's her model of the world, doing the same thing. Well, they didn't grow up together. Those kiddos that did grow up in the same neighborhood and they knew each other and they went to high school, and you wonder why these high school sweethearts are still together. Well, that's because they share a model of the world. But most people getting married today, they're not marrying right out of high school. They're not marrying their sweethearts. They're marrying somebody much later in life that have their own careers. And so they have two models of the world. This is how I do it. No, this is how I do it. Right? And they don't know how to blend these two models of the world together because of the need to be right and also the need to look good. So I created something called 4 relational principles that are underlying our communication. We need to be right, and I'll tell you how that shows up. We need to look good. When we have to justify what we did, that means we didn't look good, so we have to justify it. So when our partner points out something about us that we think makes us look bad, we justify it. Well, that doesn't solve anything. And then the third one is we are meaning making machine. Let me slow that down. Meaning making machine. We see something, we give it a meaning, and that creates our reality. And whatever our reality is, we're right. And then the last of the 4 relational principles is we're wired to judge, blame, and criticize. And this is one of the things that blows up the marriage, blows it up. Okay. So when I begin to have them look at their fights and their arguments and how they communicate based on those 4 principles, they begin to reflect. They begin to see, that's what I'm doing. That's why we're fighting and we're not agreeing on things. I want my couples to come to that awareness. And by giving them this information, they do it on their own because they're smart. They're smart people.
I love that because there's a principle in my coaching training from Milton Erickson. It's the Ericksonian principles. And one of the things is you're okay. I'm okay. We're all like, you fundamentally, if you're here and you're sitting and you're breathing and you're cognitively aware of you're okay. And I think by taking those simple steps in a process, allowing clients to sit back and say, like, I am attaching some sort of a meaning to this. Is the meaning coming from my past, coming from my family of origin, coming from a mask I'm wearing? Where's it coming from? And the best coaches, counselors, therapists take that when you said it. We take your fight, we take your argument, whatever it is, and we put it on the table. We take the emotional stuff out of it and start to examine and look at. We can make some progress. At least that's what I found. I was so attached to the emotion of my judgment, of perception of who I thought I was, how I felt, that it took a lot of work for the therapist to be like, it's not him, it's not you. Let's look at the thing. No, tell me what happened. What did you do? Where did that come from? Why did you do that? And when you create those spaces for people to safely explore, when it comes up the next time, like the gentleman on the plane said 5 times, it's going to come back. This doesn't go away. You're with this forever, right? It gives us some wherewithal to be able to persevere through the next time. So those are some ways you bring clients through success experiences and take them through a process. Talk about the couples that don't make it, the mistakes you've made, even in your own coaching. I wish I would have known this. Then this is a typical area where if I start to sense these things, I've done this in the past and that doesn't work with my clients. Talk a little bit about this idea of failure.
Well, I do have a high success rate. However, I have helped couples uncouple. And I have a conversation that I have these two people say. So if say, for instance, I'm the one who is thinking about divorce, I would say to my partner, this is, if I were to divorce you, this is what I would miss. If I were to divorce you, this is what I wouldn't miss. And then I would have my partner say to me, if you were to divorce me, this is what I would miss. And if you were to divorce me, this is what I would not miss. And my job is to listen for, is there enough that they would miss to fight for? Okay. And is what they wouldn't miss fixable? Are they willing to correct what they wouldn't miss? Like, I wouldn't miss the fighting. Okay, let's correct the fighting. Okay. But what has happened is I will have a couple where the wife might say, there is nothing I would miss. And this is what I wouldn't miss. I wouldn't miss the put downs. I wouldn't miss the name calling. I wouldn't miss him coming home every weekend drunk. I wouldn't. And she's going on and on and on about what she wouldn't miss. That woman is going to get divorced. Because I look at the man and I go, you can't fix that. You haven't in the last 15 years of your marriage. And she's put up with it. And you basically turned in all your chips because there's nothing about you that she wants to fight for. It's over.
And being, are you that, but are you like,
absolutely.
Here's my perspective of what I'm hearing and what I know as an expert. Uncoupling sounds like where you are at.
Absolutely. Wow. Because they can hear it.
Yeah.
They can hear it. So I'm just pointing out, there isn't enough to fight for. You don't want to fight for anything. You have for the last 5 years, 10 years, 7 years. You kept fighting because there was still something good about the marriage. But you turned in all your chips. You played your game. It's over. You've waited too long. And that's why I want to work with newlyweds so that this doesn't happen. To give them a fighting chance to understand what will take away that loving feeling, when to recognize it. So one of the things that happens, you ever watch two people that are in love and they're looking at each other, right? Oh, they got that look, and you're like, get a room.
Or people are like, oh, that's just the honeymoon phase. That'll end, right?
That's so sarcastic. I hate that.
Yes.
It doesn't have to end.
Yes, it doesn't have to end.
But here's what kills it, that judgment, blame, and criticism. What ends up happening is they don't have a way to talk about it without infuriating their partner and turning it into a fight. So I have something called the 7 conversations to make a good marriage great. They're clinically based, but they're designed to resolve and build that emotional connection with their partner, and to talk about things that are difficult to talk about in a way that the other partner can hear it and not get defensive. That's the big problem. They take it personally and get defensive.
Yes. A couple things coming up for me.
Okay.
Especially early on in therapy, and the need to take notebooks and hand notebooks to both of us at one point because couldn't.
Oh, okay. They were giving you notebooks? Okay.
So he'd hand us a notebook and he'd say, write it all down, write it all down. So this notion of write your list, what would you miss? What wouldn't you miss? This idea of writing your list and using a process is such a powerful tool in your toolbox that you bring to clients. The other thing that you shared, which was very reminiscent of a lot of the deep work, because we didn't have the luxury of getting to work with you, right? Probably it took us 7 years. It took us 7 years, interestingly, to rebuild. But somebody like you, who's so direct, could have been really helpful as I was spinning in emotional chaos for a long time. And we had a therapist that wasn't going to say any sort of take a side or give you any sort of sense of what he's seeing. And having somebody like you to say, let me just point out, you guys are going to do what you're going to do, but here's where you're at right now based on what I'm seeing, feels really powerful. And those horsemen, criticism, contempt, I don't remember the 3 that you said, judgment,
and criticism.
Yeah, they're huge when they stand in the way, and they're really hard to get past. Think about where you're headed with newlyweds and what they can do, because you mentioned on this notion of why you want to help them early.
Yeah.
And if you were to have your dream of I do this thing for newlyweds and here's what this would mean and look like, share a little bit about that vision.
Thanks for asking. Because, here's the thing, the more I keep talking about it, because this idea only came together last week. I got to tell
Beautiful.
you, it only came together last week because I kept thinking every time I heard, where were you? Where were you? I'm like, okay, they needed help earlier on in their marriage. They didn't get it, or they got it too late, newlyweds. And then I started thinking about building a business. It takes 5 years, a new child, a baby, all the problems, staying up late at night, colicky, all that stuff but you don't give up. And so if I could help newlyweds recognize that what they're going through is normal and love is not enough, because there's this wonderful author that talks about it as a chemical thing in your brain, oxytocin, right? And
Yep, yep,
the cuddle
yep,
hormone, right?
yep,
And it goes away, and then we stop touching each other
yep.
because we're angry with them, and then that's worse. And then we start looking, because we are love seeking missiles. We're looking for somebody to love us. We're looking for that connection. And in a world of social media, and both parties are at work with other people of the opposite sex, it is way too tempting. And I do think that infidelity is on the rise. And I have turned so many marriages back to being married
Mm.
after infidelity, for them to realize what was the underlying reason. And as long as both parties are looking at taking full responsibility, they will make their way back to each other. That's the key. And sometimes it's hard to say, you're somewhat responsible. It's like, no, I'm not. Don't make me look like the bad guy. And they justify their behavior. There's the fourth relational principle.
Mhm.
Stop justifying.
I'm so excited as I listen to your vision and I think about Gen Zs. And actually, last night flipped on Netflix for just like, give me an hour of something. And it was called Temptation Island. And if you know anything, it'd be
Yes,
a fascinating study for you. It's ridiculousness.
yes, yes.
Right? They trot the hot people in front of the couples to see if their couple can survive temptation, right? Essentially,
Right.
because of this exact reason. They have underlying issues of infidelity. Somebody's after the show texting that, right? Sliding in their, all the things. And what you're doing and where I think you should be is like, you need to be the voice for young newlywed couples, the go-to expert, because our relationships are the key to a healthy, thriving society, right? So love that.
I do want to share something, Stacey.
Please.
One thing that I did when I came back to Steve, my husband, is every month I would ask him, did you feel loved by me? And it's an interesting point of view. Instead of me being the girl in my first 18 years of marriage complaining about me not feeling loved, I would turn it around and ask him, did you feel loved by me? And there were some months, Stacey, he said no. And I would say, got it. I will work on that. And if anybody out there, your listeners, know about the 5 love languages, my husband's love languages was acts of service. And believe it or not, if I washed the dishes, he felt loved. Go figure. So I became very like a detective to figure out, if I did this, how is he going to react? And if I did this, how is he going to react? And I was always looking for those acts of service that would make his heart melt. The other thing that would make his heart melt is I would tell him, I couldn't do any of this without you. So as I was building my private practice and sometimes feeling I wanted to give up, but I didn't, he would go and I would tell him, I couldn't have done this without you. And he would just melt. It doesn't take a lot to melt a man's heart. It doesn't.
That feels so beautiful. And I can feel how those questions given as a gift can be really powerful. So thank you. How did you feel loved by me? Or even like right now, how are you feeling loved by me right now? How are you feeling right now? Even in this moment, in any moment that you have an opportunity to be with your partner. Okay. We have a fun little part of our podcast where we put you on the hot seat.
Okay.
Are you ready for this? All right. All right. We're going to go to hot seat. Hot seat is one word answers, because our goal here at Unlock is to show other coaches and to help other coaches feel inspired, feel connected. The coaching industry is the industry that helps people transform their lives, right?
Yes.
So your expertise, your understanding, kind of what naturally rises to the surface allows us to support other coaches. So one word or short answers, what kind of just intuitively comes up for you, okay?
Okay.
The value of working with a marriage mindset coach is?
Find out who you're married to.
The book I always recommend is?
There's this where you do the love something. I forgot the name of it.
The superpower I bring my clients.
Not judgmental.
My first client taught me
That I needed to learn a lot about how couples need help.
one non-negotiable value I use in my coaching.
Don't lie.
The wildest dream I'm manifesting right now.
Getting more gutsy.
I love that. I recharge and refocus by
Watching Netflix.
I love that. If my coaching business were a song, it would be
Ah.
You're the first person that has sung for us. I love that. The biggest unlock I've learned being a mindset coach.
That we all have a gift to give others. Just give it.
Who is the coach you most admire?
Judith Arbetter. She's my spiritual teacher. She always puts me back, right back.
Love that. And then in 5 years, I hope people understand the coaching industry or the marriage coaching industry is
an accessible tool and part of my life, like a go-to, just a go-to. We as individuals don't have all the answers. In the past, I think we've used books and then we've used podcasts, but there's something very special about a person-to-person interaction that if people understood, this is what I want to learn, and then go find somebody who's done it. They don't have to be an expert. They just have to know enough to get you through what you're going through. And that years ago, it was going back to school. I look at coaching as that's part of school. But it's a living thing. School sometimes isn't functional. You learn something, okay, what? But no, I can transform me. I want to say this. This is something that I found interesting. You put out a map and you say, we're all going here, but Stacy got dropped off over here and Kimberly got dropped over here. So my directions aren't going to work for Stacy. So the other thing that for people that are looking for a coach is they need to find the coach that has an idea that's in the same neighborhood. Okay. Because then the directions make sense. So don't worry. There's a lot of coaches out there. If one doesn't work, you'll find somebody else. God knows I've been through a lot of coaches myself.
Yep.
And a lot of my clients have moved on and I want them to move on. They're done with me. They got what they needed from me. Now they're off to something else. So there's enough to go around for all of us. Right?
Well said. Beautifully said. And Kimberly Brenner, it has been so nice to have you on the Unlock podcast today. If people are looking to connect with you, where can they find you?
ChicagoMarriageCoach.com.
Thank you, Kimberly.
You're welcome. Bye, guys. Be loved.